Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by Danyelle Holmes. You are down in Jackson, Mississippi, member of the Poor People's Campaign. We spoke last year, and bit of deja vu now with repeated problems with Jackson, Mississippi's water. But now the governor of Mississippi has declared a state of emergency. They are saying that the water is not safe to drink. They in my view, are largely responsible for a lot of the problems. But let me just play some of what the governor had to say and other health officials yesterday.
This is a very different situation from a boil water notice, which is also a serious situation which residents of Jackson have become tragically numb to. Until it is fixed, it means we do not have reliable running water.
The water is not safe to drink, and I would even say it's not safe to brush your teeth with because we are not seeing adequate chlorination and inability to consistently disinfect the water.
So basically, they are blaming the water plant that it can't adequately treat the water. There's been problems with the water down there for a long time. Can you kind of talk about, because they are also blaming recent storms impacting the water plant? Can you kind of talk about the long-term problems with the water and what is actually causing, obviously, the worsening now, where the water has been declared not safe to drink?
So what I will say, Jordan, thank you so much for having me on. My name is again Danyelle Holmes, and I bring you greetings from Repairs of the Breach, under the leadership of Reverend Dr. William Barber II, who stands with us here in Mississippi during this critical water crisis in Jackson. I will say that the governor, this is a direct, what we're seeing here in the city of Jackson, as you have stated, is a direct failure of our state government. This has gone on for 20 or maybe 30 plus years, right? I knew that Jackson had water problems when I came here to Jackson, Mississippi from Greenwood, Mississippi in 1991. It was never safe to brush your teeth or to drink the water. And so now we are here in 2022 and a governor who has totally neglected the plight of the infrastructure here in the capital city of Mississippi, and that's Jackson, Mississippi. And so even the governor's refusal to allocate or appropriate funds for infrastructure this legislative session because he did not trust the Black leadership that was leading the city of Jackson, right? And so we keep seeing these racist tent, these extreme policies that are being put in place, and extreme neglect that are putting over 175,000 people in the city of Jackson in direct harm and danger because of petty politics. And we can no longer afford to play these kind of games with the governor. However, the mayor on yesterday declared a state of emergency before the governor declared a state of emergency. The governor failed to include the mayor in his press conference on yesterday for whatever reason, but you make plans for a city and exclude the city leadership. That goes to show again the ignorance and petty politics of this state governor here in Mississippi, Governor Tate Reeves. The long-term effect, the residents, we know as residents that this is not an overnight process where the water will be fixed. We have been doing this work as a coalition, Mississippi Rapid Response Coalition, which includes One Voice, People's Advocacy Institute, the Mississippi Poor People's Campaign, and Alternate Routes. These organizations have come together for the last few years when the governor wouldn't show up for the community during the water crisis. And we've been committed to giving out water to citizens, feeding families that needed hot meals, and placing families in homes as well. Even during the winter storm crisis, we passed out portable heaters, right? And so we're here for the community for the long haul. We have launched a initiative, state individuals to work throughout this duration, at least for the next year, through the Mississippi Rapid Response Coalition, responding to the community, making sure that community members have clean water and potable water. And so this just won't be an ongoing initiative while this week while we're experiencing this water crisis. But until Jackson's infrastructure is completely safe and the water is completely safe for residents to drink, we'll be doing up to the task of making this happen for our community.
And it seems that the governor is basically blaming the city for not keeping up with its water plant, for the city with infrastructure problems. But I mean, this is a governor that has not taken the opportunity to expand Medicaid, has blocked that. He's somebody who seems very intent on attacking welfare programs, seems pretty intent on, giving wealthy people tax cuts. Can you kind of talk about the state's role here? Jackson is 84% Black. That's the capital city. I don't believe the state has invested money in infrastructure in Jackson for a long time.
Actually, this past legislative session, the governor allocated money to golf courses, to parks that were not in the capital city. No money came to the city of Jackson as it relates to infrastructure. And we know that without getting the infrastructure to rebuild the city of Jackson's infrastructure is $1 billion plus, right? And the lack or the failure, neglect thereof from the state government is why Jackson is seeing a crumbling infrastructure. Yes, we have 4 tanks here in the city of Jackson. All 4 tanks went down on yesterday. It wasn't just yesterday that residents' water wasn't safe, right? It wasn't just yesterday that residents knew not or had been told not to brush their teeth with the water. It was just that the governor used this platform on yesterday to act as if this is a new thing now that the conditions have worsened, when the conditions are the same as if they were last week before the storm hit.
Right.
And to talk about this governor, this governor doesn't care about the 84% Blacks, right? He just went on a racist rant and sent $130 million back in housing to the federal government and ended our rental assistance program here in the state of Mississippi, right? And so you can't. You're the same governor that said that you're going to allocate money to fight crime in the city of Jackson, but yet we've yet to see you show up for that. So he stated during his election campaign that he will run this state like President Trump ran the country, and we're seeing that play out just as what he said.
And can you kind of talk about the history here? Because, the media is covering it now. So people think like, oh, the water was safe, before yesterday. But there's been problems in the water for years. And people I've spoke with have said they don't drink the tap water there before this because of the infrastructure is so old and problems that were known with the water.
Well, I will say even before, and we don't have to go back to 20, 30 years. It was just in 2015 when the former administration, before Mayor Chukwuemeka Lumumba took over, won election. Mayor Tony Yarborough, former Mayor Tony Yarborough, declared a state of emergency back in 2015. And then the leadership of this state failed to respond at that time. So it's been a lack of a thing of Black leadership will not get any of the state's money, right? Because they've been fighting to take over the city of Jackson. They've been fighting to take over the city's airport, the largest airport in the state of Mississippi. And so this is it's a matter of if it's white, it's right. And not to mention, the white folks that actually just robbed the poor and low wealth folks here in the state of Mississippi of more than $7 million in TANF welfare funds, right? And so, and this governor has been implicated in that scheme along with the former governor. So the hypocrisy.
Can you tell the audience about that? What was this $70 million scheme?
A welfare scheme where the former former head of Department of Human Services actually were along with under the direction of former Governor Phil Bryant was scammed the state of Mississippi TANF recipients or poor wealth folks poor people out of over the count And because they won't allow the forensic auditors to go in and do a full audit of the Mississippi Department of Human Services books, we're yet to know the real dollar amount of what was taken from poor people. But millions and millions, it could go into the billions of dollars, federal dollars that were scammed by organizations that were tapped by the state governor, former state governor Phil Bryant. This current governor, Tate Reeves, was lieutenant governor at the time. He has now been implicated by those that are alleged of crimes of scam, of fraud, embezzlement, and all of that. And so it's okay to steal money from the poor and profit off the poor, but it isn't okay for the poor to receive money that's been allocated from them from federal government. And so we keep seeing a slap in the face of this governor hating poor folks, hating Black folks. And every day he gets on media, social media, talking about liberals this. We're going to show the liberals this. And in my reality, he's just one step away from saying, this is what we feel about niggas. And so his racism is blatant. There's no cut chase to it. It is what it is. He doesn't shy away from it. And the water that they have stepped up, calling in the National Guard to bring in water to the city of Jackson, is like feeding a dog crumbs, right? We don't need you to give us water. Community, we've been saving the community for this long, passing out water, making sure that our elderly has water, schools have water. And so today, making this grandstand of bringing in National Guard to pass out bottled waters, no thank you, Governor. You can keep your crumbs. We need our whole pie here in the city of Jackson.
And really what you're describing, and I've seen it in other places, is kind of a race struggle. Jackson used to be, back in the day, predominantly white, dramatically
Absolutely.
shifted to majority Black. And you have the white governor, his allies. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. They don't want the Black folks running the city. So
That's right.
bit by bit, they've been trying to take over. Different public entities in Jackson. And if they can't get it, it sounds like they punish the city and its Black leadership with disinvestment.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what's happening. And this disinvestment has been going on for years. And unfortunately, some folks that look like me have played into the hands of the governor, right? And have catered and pandered that narrative because they need the attention or the resources that he may have, the crumbs that he may have, or willing to feed them just for pushing this foolish and racist narrative.
And let me ask you about health consequences. Obviously, Mississippi ranks pretty low on healthcare, education. Can you kind of talk about in Jackson, have we seen high cancer rates or any, other things that in other places are associated with toxins in water?
We're seeing people daily dying from breast cancer. Every day we're seeing tons of women on social media that are ringing the bell here in Jackson, but across the state of Mississippi. And so, as one of the leaders of the Poor People's Campaign, and I'm the field team lead here for the state of Mississippi, is that I began to talk to community about connecting the dots of why we're seeing burying our loved ones daily, or they're dying daily from breast cancer, from lung cancer, from rare lung diseases, respiratory issues, diseases that African Americans wouldn't have normally been diagnosed with, such as my mom, ALS, in her early 60s, she was diagnosed with ALS and passed away 3 years ago, right? And this is a very rare disease in African Americans. But if we began to connect the environmental issues here in the state of Mississippi, and because of the lack of education here, many people don't know what environmental injustice is. Many people don't know the harm that this poisonous water will cause to their bodies. And so it is our job as a community, as a coalition, to educate, get out and educate our people and shift this narrative that the governor is pushing, such as a lack of leadership or incompetent leadership, right? And really begin to tell the truth as to what's happening in this system, in this state, and how long it's been a systemic issue.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, the governor says they're going to be delivering water. I don't know how quickly that's going to happen. Just tell people how are people dealing on the ground? It's still hot, kind of the last days of summer. You don't have water to brush your teeth, shower, cook. How are people dealing?
So we're the Mississippi Rapid Response Coalition. Again, we're across the city giving out water, making sure our elderly have water. We're taking water to senior citizens. If folks need food, we're providing food. We know that we have a mold remediation team that's getting ready to go in and voluntarily spray folks' homes that were impacted by the flood waters. And so again, this move that the governor is making, it thank you, but no thank you. Right. We've been doing this work. We did it yesterday in the extreme heat. It was very hot outside. I actually was the U-Haul driver, right? I was delivering the water to the different locations. This is the work that we've been we've been called to do, and we're going to continue to show up for our community, whether the governor shows up or not.
And for people watching, is there anything they could do, anywhere they could donate, for water and other things?
Sure, they can go to www.peoplesadvocacyinstitute.org, and there's a donation link for the Mississippi Rapid Response Coalition, and they can feel free to donate to that link.
Thanks for taking the time. We'll stay in touch on this. Danyelle Holmes with the Poor People's Campaign in Mississippi. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.